Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Reed should be here momentarily, but the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We are rejoined by former Washington wide receiver, Mr. Anthony Armstrong, on this beautiful Thursday evening. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the round of applause, fellas. That's new, and that's a nice touch, right?
We only keep it for the royalty. That's what we do it for. But
it's champagne with that there, man.
My man. Speaking of champagne, Anthony, I got to get your reaction before we break down this game against the Lions, where Washington is traveling to Detroit to go walk into the Lions' den. My first question to you, Curtis Samuel. He was kind of joked about a lot on social media by the media, hampered on saying this was a piece by the coaching staff they really wanted to bring in here. He didn't produce. His first game here, healthy. He was the first touchdown in Commanders history. Kind of want to get your opinion on Curtis Samuel's comeback, because coming from that injury, I'm sure there was a confidence-building game, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think he was probably just so ready and excited to get out there and just prove it and just show that, hey, I'm still that dude. I still can play. I still can be effective on the field. And I'm excited from what he did. I love how Scott Turner got him in the game early.
Yep.
That's one. I mean, players work off rhythm. It's worked off rhythm. I mean, you have to. We'll probably talk about Terry later, but you got to applaud him for being able to be patient and not get vocal about not getting the pass. Yeah, we're only getting one, but everybody else is eating, and he's still fine with that because he knows that the ball's gonna come back his way. But Curtis did his thing, man. He showed why he's so effective, why he's dangerous, and it's really gonna help this offense elevate and play to a higher level throughout the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And sticking with the wide receivers, the young buck out there, I mean, 2 touchdowns in his first game ever.
Rookie of the week.
Rookie of the week. Just speak about Dotson and what you thought about his game this past Sunday.
Man, he's so methodical, and I'm still bringing down some more of the all 22 tape, but he's a technician. He's a technician, and you can see like the field view of that out and up, and then. I don't know if y'all paid attention to just the little clips that the media posts on Twitter, like throughout training camp. And every time you see routes on there, what's the very first route you see them run? A wide and out, right? So you got to understand that route is a base thing that they do. They showed it a lot. So then that out and up is something that's definitely going to play off of that.
Yeah, dude, and that was a beautiful, beautiful catch and perfectly laid out ball by Carson Wentz. But I want to get your opinion going against this game against the Lions here this weekend, because last week against the Eagles, they kind of showed early on they like to do a lot of press, man coverage. They do press sometimes, but they don't do it every single play. They mix in the zone and all that. So I want to get your opinion on how Washington can attack this Detroit defense when they held Devontae Smith to no catches, no yards, according to ESPN. On film, I saw Devontae Smith catch a football, but then the stat sheet tells me he didn't. So I'm very confused by that, but I want to get your opinion on how Washington should attack this defense.
Well, it's a defense that doesn't have anybody that's just going to splash and just you have to circle and keep your eye on the whole time. I mean, yes, they have Aiden Hutchinson, second overall pick, good player, really good player. He was in the backfield a lot against Philadelphia, so obviously you have to handle him. But there's no Myles Garrett. There's not just a playmaker that you just say, hey, don't mess with that dude, right? So with them, it's really going to be making sure you handle that pressure. Last week, Washington was great against the pass. They gave Carson 3 seconds to pass. That was the longest time in the league. So I mean, you probably hadn't heard that in a while, that Carson Wentz or even the Washington O-line given some time for a passer. So that was a good thing to see. And they're going to need that same performance going into this game. I think where you're going to be able to attack is just continue to spread the ball that you have been early on in that game. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, he was calling blitzes. He was trying to get what's his name, Jalen Hurts, out of his game. He was trying to get him off of his spot, and he ate that stuff up. I mean, he slid up in the pocket, and he got out of there. And people were saying that Carson isn't as mobile as Jalen Hurts, and that's fair enough. That's true, but being able to step up into the pocket and escape, he's shown that he can do that. He did it last week against Jacksonville. So It's gonna be a similar thing.
Yeah, because the reason why I wanted to ask you that question because when we first interviewed you, you brought up how Jahan Dotson in college, the one knock on him was that getting off the press man, and Jeff Okudah being there in this defense, they like to use that. So I was kind of wondering how you thought maybe the Detroit defense would try to who are they going to take away? Because last week the Jaguars took away Terry McLaurin, like you said, everyone else ate. So do you think that the Detroit defense are actually going to play back and force you to play short?
I think they're gonna still try to take away Terry first and foremost. I mean,
Okay.
Jahan, he had a good game. He had a really good game. 2 touchdowns. That's nothing sneeze at. That is not easy to do. But he's still a rookie, and I think that they're gonna figure that, okay, if we take our cornerback and put a safety, we can stop their best receiver, and we're going to continue to try to pressure Carson Wentz and make him get the ball out of his hands quickly. So Jahan's going to get his one-on-one opportunity. He's going to be able to go against press. Akudah's a long, rangy corner. He's got big, long arms. He's going to be able to reach out there and try to get his hands on him. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think he's got enough skills in his route running. He can create separation. And then he's shown that he had a pretty solid game last week. So if this game gets to where they got to throw it all day, that may not be the best setup. But I think they'll be able to handle themselves.
Yeah, I just think it's a big measuring stick for Jahan Dotson because the big knock on him not being able to get off the press. If Detroit likes to do that a lot and Jahan is still be able to get open and be productive, I think that he worked on the one thing that people were giving him crap about, which is a good sign.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and he'll show up.
Yeah,
he'll show up. I mean, you don't get drafted in the first round if you can't get off press.
Right.
But I know that you just know that just the way the numbers break out. Like if they're gonna put two people on Terry, everybody else is gonna get single coverage or some combination. Some sort of combination of zone on that side. So, it's gonna come down to Carson being patient again. It's just they wanted to make Jalen make mistakes last week. And he didn't make many. I think it's going to be similar this week against Carson Wentz. They're going to try to just force him to throw it. I don't think they have it. I don't think they have the skills to just line up and take everybody away. Like they're not that team. They're not that team.
Right. And flipping to the other side of the ball, this past Sunday, it seemed like coming into the season and the end of last season, or throughout all last season, I should say, the third down defense was kind of the problem. That was a big sticking point coming into this season. And through one game, it seems like they kind of sewed it up a little bit. Obviously, Jacksonville kind of shot themselves in the foot, so to say, on a couple of those third downs. But not taking anything away from the defense, they came out there and did what they were supposed to do. So my question is, going into week 2, with all these guys on offense with Detroit, they got Swift, they got Amar St. Brown, DJ Chark, TJ Hawkinson, the weapons on offense. Do you think Jack Del Rio should stay aggressive, or do you think he should kind of not really play it safe, but not be as aggressive against this type of offense with Detroit?
It's tough to say. I think he's gonna continue to be aggressive. I think you have to put pressure on Jared Goff early and often. He was picking apart that defense later on in the game when he had no pressure and was able to drop it in the zone. So number one, you have to be aggressive. But the thing is, the defense and the linebackers, you have to be sound. You have to be able to fit in the gaps that you're supposed to. You can't overrun things just because you think it's a stretch. I went back and looked at the first series for Jacksonville, and that whole time they attacked Jamin Davis. Mm-hmm. They really did. It was every single play, and I went and I was looking, and I was like, why is this just seem like it's the same person? And it was like on the first option route. What was it? Christian Kirk was lined up on Derek Forrest. Yeah. Right, and people were, "What's up, man? What's up?" He's sliding in he slid in on us over there. Remember the play against Christian Kirk,
yeah,
right? And everybody's like, "Why was Derek Forrest on Christian Kirk?" Well, I mean, that's an unfortunate matchup, but Davis was underneath, and Trevor Lawrence looked right at him and waited for Christian Kirk to make his break, and he threw the ball. If you get later on down the field, I mean, against the wheel route, he got beat on the wheel route, so he's going to have to be sound in this game. I mean, there's talented running backs in Detroit, Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift. Obviously, we know those two. He's going to have to be sound. He's going to have to fit up where he needs to be. These are big, physical offensive linemen. So if you're going to show that you're going to be a physical presence at linebacker, this is not the time to try to run around people. you got to run into them. You got to try to slow some things down.
Yeah, and then Anthony, my next question for you. I kind of want to get a brief recap, but also a preview of this weekend with Carson Wentz and Terry McLaurin linking up. Obviously, Terry McLaurin was bracketed the entire game. Safety slides over a little bit. Carson puts that ball in a perfect spot. Kind of break down that throw for us and why it's such a perfect throw or a good throw by Carson Wentz. And then vice versa, how do you think that this game's going to go matching up with Carson Wentz against his defense? Because Detroit fans will tell you they couldn't stop Jalen Hurts on the ground, and that was one of the biggest issues for them. They don't have to worry about that as much with Carson. So how do you expect Carson to do in this game?
Well, let's see. I'm gonna go back to that pass. That was a beautiful pass. It gave me chills. I was like, I played it back and I was like, damn, that was a hell of a throw.
Mhm.
Like when you break it down, I mean, on that side of the field, run the cover 2, so you got the corner that's gonna be down, Shaquem Griffin, and then the safety was up, who was just outside the hash a couple yards. Curtis Samuel was in the slot. They basically ran 4 verticals. Well, if you run a cover 2, the safeties have the deep halves. And then out on that outside near the sideline, they call it the honey hole. If you can make the throw, it's a tough throw, but as you can see, it can be done. If a guy doesn't jam you, that cornerback was supposed to reroute Terry. He didn't touch him. He just let him run right behind him. Asante Samuel used to do that stuff. You find clips of me. I have one clip I caught against Philly and I fell. I caught it, but I fell. But either way, similar type of concept. Like if you know, that's I think that's the benefit of having Scott Turner down on the field. There's probably an extra set of eyes where they were like, hey, look, this corner's not paying attention to me. And Coach Rivera actually said Scott Turner told Wentz, stay on Terry a little bit longer here. Just see. But that was a hell of a pass. He went down the sideline, dropped it in the bucket. I mean, couldn't get any better. That's how you coach it up. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, sorry.
Go ahead. You're talking about we're going to Detroit, right?
Yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Okay, yeah, Detroit. So they are going to get pressure. I think Aiden Hutchinson is going to find his way into the backfield. But the one thing about him, he just seems like a young kid with a lot of energy. And in this league, they'll let you, bull run. You can find bull rush me all the pass, but the good quarterbacks are going to step up into the pocket. And now you've created this major void. So until he learns to kind of play, not play so far past the quarterback, Carson's going to have some places to escape. I don't think that we need to go RPO all game and try to make Carson Wentz, try to emulate that part of the football game. But I think there's going to be a few opportunities to run. Combination of the running backs that you got back there, but being patient on offense. It's probably going to look similar to this previous week, But one thing I was really impressed by Philly is that they found a way to get the ball to A.J. Brown at will. Mm-hmm. Once they broke down that blitz that Aaron Glenn was sending, they were able to get the ball to A.J. Brown at will. And so I would like to see something like that happen where they're able to just first and foremost handle that pressure. And then Aaron Glenn's going to have to back up and sit in some zone, and then it gets to be a nice, easy day of dink and dunk and just hitting people in open zones.
Love the sound of that, Anthony. Absolutely love it.
So many former players on that coaching staff. What's it like playing for they have Mark Brunell, Antoine Randall, Aaron Glenn. I mean, as you mentioned, what's it like playing for a player or a coach that used to be a player? Is it different?
There's a mutual respect,
right.
and you say mutual, obviously there's an authority thing of it, a side of it, but whenever they tell you, hey man, don't run that slant at that steep of an angle because you're going to get hit by a safety, because if you look at the tape in 1993, I did it and got hit by a safety. That holds a little bit more weight, right? Than when it's like the coach's son. And even though the coach's son may be a wonderful coach, so no shade to those guys, but there's a little bit of a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like if you hear, Kyle played.
He's a genius.
He played for a while. He played. He played
at Texas, right?
At Texas.
Yeah, he's got Chris Sims's initials tattooed on his ankle.
Yeah.
I think they used to be lovers, I heard. Yeah.
But it's like they have it was like a group of friends. It was like a group of friends. They all got the same tattoos. I had to ask him about it, but I was like,
it's a little weird having another man's initials tattooed on you. If they're not family.
But no, hell, I love Kyle, man. He's good people. But yeah, I done lost my train of thought.
It's okay. It's okay. That's fine. But my next question that I had for you, Cole Turner is practicing in full this week, which is a great news to hear that the tight end room is getting healthy. Armani Rogers played really well last week when he came in either run blocking or catching passes like that screen pass. They took a while. What do you think, Cole Turner? How do you think he's going to be used in this weekend?
Well, I was listening to the Coach Rivera's press conference the other day, and he was talking about how Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick were both former receivers, and then he talks about Cole Turner's former receiver, very much a receiving tight end. There's a lot of pass catchers out there, so I think the way that Scott Turner's been very creative, and seems to be putting people in positions that are going to make them the most successful. You don't see, a guy that's like not good at running deeper. Why is this guy running a screen, right? Like John Bates does not need to run a tight end screen. I'm sorry. That's just not your game. But Armani Rogers, he's a little bit faster, a little bit more athletic. Give him that play. Like, that's smart. Cole Turner has shown to be a red zone presence. If he's on the field, they're going to be putting him in there for a reason. So how is he going to make an impact specifically? I'm not sure. He's going to have to get his hand in the dirt, though. He's going to have to show some willingness to block. This is going to be a physical football game, but I think he's just going to be able to get out there and be a mismatch, be a giant amongst everybody else that's like 6 foot. The tight ends are tall, but the receivers are small. So
right.
I think he's going to be able to at least provide another target for Carson. He'll make a couple of plays. I would put my trust in Scott Turner.
Right. And so, like I said, like I mentioned before, the defense they came out last week against Jacksonville. They were pretty stout on third down. What's going to be more important this week? Carson Wentz in the offense, getting off to a fast start and kind of mimicking what they did against Jacksonville, putting up 28 points or more, or the defense pretty much staying stout again and staying stout on third down and getting off the field.
Well, if we're going to be real, the defense got bailed out a couple of times, and more than once, really. On the first drive, the wheel route to ETN was a miss.
Dropped it, yeah.
It wasn't a drop. It was a horrible pass. He missed it by like 7 yards. This is your king, the number 1 overall pick. But let me not go shade. Let me not go there. But he's a good kid. But on the very next play, Jacksonville continued to send the similar looks. They ran the same play, pretty much put Christian Kirk in the backfield on the left side.
Right.
He ran a wheel. He was wide open. Trevor Lawrence was under a little pressure. He forced it into like triple coverage. They forced a turnover. They forced a field goal. I'm sorry. So, on paper, it's like great field goal. That's awesome. Great stop team. But you dodged a couple.
Yep.
And then some of the plays, that were given up to get down there, you're not going to always be able to bend. And shoot, somebody's going to make you break. I mean, Jared Goff, say what you want about him. He's played in this league a long time, been in the Super Bowl. You have to think he'll see that wheel route. He'll be able to hit those passes. He did have some overthrows, yes, but I don't think you can make those same mistakes against a second-year quarterback that you're going to be able to make against Jared Goff.
Right. Yeah. So Ryan Kerrigan a little bit. You played with him. What do you see him? How do you see him impacting this defensive line, especially this week? I mean, Detroit's got a good young O-line, which, by the way, Kyle, I won our bet. Penei Sewell, I think it's pretty clear, is a better offensive lineman than Jackson Carman, but that's for another day.
About.
So, how do you see Ryan Kerrigan influencing this defensive line?
Man, honestly, I think when I said it on my show, I was saying whenever Kerrigan got that job, especially after Scannina got promoted. I was like, you're going to see some more fire out of this defensive line. Like, they have to be able to like show something. And you go back to playing for a former player, right? And then Kerrigan is in the recent history. So like, you've seen him play. Some guys might have played with him, I'm not sure, right? But they're not too far away from having been on the same field with Ryan.
Jason Montez did. And
they did.
So you go. So you have some respect out of this. Like, this guy has done it. He is the all-time sack leader. He's going to give you like the tips and tricks that he teaches you to do. He's done it. You've seen it on tape. Like, I think he brings more fire. I think he's another player that sees what's going on the field. He knows what to look at. He'll be able to go say, hey, Montez, look, next time you go out here, set him with the up and under. right? You got him leaning this way and that way. His impact is being able to see just the little things on the field that he would be looking for. He can relay those messages to the players, and hopefully they can make an impact with it.
Absolutely, Anthony. But last two questions I have for you before we get out of here. Rapid fire. I know you got to get out of here as well. But my first question for you, besides DeAndre Swift, who on Detroit do you think is going to be the emphasis for Washington's defense in order to contain?
I mean, if you say DeAndre Swift, you have to throw Jamal Williams in there. I think this the whole running game in and of itself. I think that's what Dan Campbell's going to hang his hat on. It's going to be a physical fight between Detroit's offense and Washington's defense. It's going to be a fist fight. Absolutely. I mean, just brutal. So that's why I'm putting so much pressure on that front seven to just do your job and keep those yards per carry to 3 and under. If you can keep it to 3 and under and try not to get over 4.5, then you're going to put yourself in a favorable situation. And you have to make Jared Goff throw the ball. I mean, if you're giving them the run game and letting that play action be wide open, it's going to be a little bit tough. So all in all, you got to contain that running game.
And last thing, your score prediction and MVP.
Ooh.
I just want to put it out there.
Prediction.
Washington has not won in Detroit since 2008.
I heard that.
First time Detroit's been favored since 2018 or something?
Yep.
2019.
They've had like 24 straight underdog.
Yep.
They don't. I was on a couple of Detroit pods the other day, like yesterday, and one of them was like, "We don't know what to do with this. Like, what do we do? we don't know what it's like to be a favorite. How do we handle this?" I'm like, "Just settle down. Just breathe, right?" It's like that. It's like that Office gif where they're like, "Oh my God, it's happening! It's happening." They don't know what to do with it. I said my score prediction. What did I say on my show? I think I said like 31-24, something along those lines. I had Washington winning. I got Washington getting this game. MVP. Ooh, that's tough.
Give me.
I'm gonna go Carson Wentz. I think he's gonna be MVP.
Easy, Anthony. I can't thank you enough for joining us, brother. I like that score prediction. Last week we had somebody, our guest, pick a loss, so I'm glad that he was wrong about that. But I hope that you are right about this one, sir. Before you get out of here, if you'd just like to plug your social media handles and your show, just in case anybody watching wants to come follow your work.
Oh, yeah, appreciate that. Thank you for having me again. And y'all can check me out on Believe in Commanders. It's on all your podcast platforms. Believe Commanders is the Twitter handle. BLEAV is how you spell that. Check me out on Twitter too, Mr. Armstrong 13. If you click on there, my profile has some other stuff. I don't really want to ramble because I feel like I've changed my username on every platform. If I can remember my MySpace page, I would tell you that. I think y'all may not be old enough for MySpace.
I had top 8
enough for
MySpace. Top 24 at one
Okay,
point.
I'm just checking.
I had a top 20.
Yeah.
You figured out how to unlock that, man.
Yeah.
I still use it. Logan Paulson's my number 1, actually.
Oh, wow. He's crazy without the hair, man. He doesn't have all that hair.
Yeah, he used to look like a dirty hippie. I like that.
That is. I think that is probably the best way to describe it.
I think his nickname was Caveman.
Hippie,
His nickname was
Yeah.
Caveman.
Old ass hippie too.
All right, Anthony. Have a
Don't
good
see
night,
many of
brother.
them.
Enjoy
All right,
yourself. Until next time, man.
Appreciate it, man.
y'all.
All right,
right,
thank you,
sir.
Anthony. Man, I love talking to Anthony, dude. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah, he's the best. He's just like the coolest dude ever. Like you can just tell the way he talks. He's just so smooth.
Everything's just so laid back and chill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And he provides awesome insight all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Now, let's get into our fan questions before we are joined by our next guest. This one is from the Colonel. Reed, I'll start this with you. There was one point in the game last week where the score should have been 28-3, but it wasn't. What's it going to take for Scott Turner to open up this offense? After all, they're already talking about Jahan Dotson as an Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate, and Gibson, McLaurin, and Samuel also had strong showings with the ball in their hands.
Yeah, I think Scott Turner's done an excellent job. I mean, you go back, all the praise that he's been getting with his play design. It's just going to take these pieces just getting a little bit more comfortable together. Remember, that was Carson Wentz, Terry McLaurin's first game together. They don't play together often. Terry also missed a lot of the offseason. Just going to take some gelling. And once they're at full strength, especially like if Brian Robinson comes back, when he comes back, let's say he does come back week 5 like he's on track to, I think you're really going to see this offense start to gel a little bit more. It's just all about people getting comfortable together, man. There's a lot of new pieces out there, and having your quarterback being the newest piece, I think, is generally it usually takes a little bit, but I think the offense looked good.
Absolutely. Now we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Big Doug from the Big Douglas Show. How you doing, brother?
Good. How you fellas doing? Thanks for having me on.
Of course,
better
man.
now that you're here.
We want to get your opinion. We got our fan questions here, and this one's from the Colonel, kind of talking about last week and how the offense opened up, but at one point they should have been up 28-3. So his question is, what's it going to take for Scott Turner to open up the offense in order to get that 28 points in the future?
I mean, I think what he did on Sunday was it. You know, I mean, 3 turnovers, it's tough. I mean, that one down there, they're driving, and if they're not into the red zone yet, they're into whatever that next zone is they call. You know, they were close. That flipped it around there.
We call it the Burgundy zone.
The Burgundy zone. I bet you do. But no, I mean, it was there. Right? I mean, I think it was there. If you go back, and I know you have, if you go back and look at the tape, there was a lot of yardage and points to be had. I think not Diami, but brought that up today that he had left a couple out there. He didn't leave them out there. The quarterback did, but I'm a Turner fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Scott Turner is very capable of being able to do this. I feel like the Jags I think they are an undercover defense. They've added a lot. They've invested heavily into their defense. They have a lot of young pieces there. They get paid too, and there's a reason why. And obviously, Washington did have some hiccups, but you're never going to be perfect. But the fact is, they were 2 for 2 in the red zone, Colonel. That makes me happy. As long as we are converting in the red zone on offense, I'm good to go. And not only were they converting, you can't even count the other 2 touchdowns that they had because they were out of the red zone. They were in the Burgundy zone. So I absolutely love what Scott Turner did last week, but I understand your point in saying you have to step on their throat. You know, don't allow them to claw themselves back. Don't allow them to be able to get a touchdown, a field goal, and be right back into the game. Step on their throat and dig them into the earth. And I understand what you mean by that. It's just I think it's more based on execution, more so than it is on scheme and play calling. Because to Doug's point, you saw what the play calling did over the duration of the game. It wasn't until the execution kind of met up with that, if that makes sense. Hall?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I like what Scott Turner did. I think the offense, obviously the first 15 scripted plays were great. The first drive was great. The first 2 drives were great.
Fantastic. 2 of the best drives we've seen in like 2 years,
in
bro.
a long time.
Right.
But to you guys' point, I think that they were on the way to scoring, putting up, blowing them out and putting up those points. It's just Curtis Samuel fumbles the ball, gives the ball back to the Jaguars. The defense giving up a couple third downs here and there, a couple penalties here and there, and just keeping the Jaguars drives extended. So I think it's just they just got to not shoot themselves in the foot and just play nice, sound football. And I think that they'll be on the verge or on the way to not blowing out teams, but just being a high-powered offense and putting up points.
And don't you say that. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Oh, no.
If it
I'm
happens,
not
it
gonna say
happens.
no.
But don't you do that.
By the way, I was so nervous when Curtis Samuel fumbled because I looked away for a second. I thought it was Gibson. I was like, oh, my God, dude, you did it again? Are you kidding me? I was like, thank God it was just Curtis, you know?
I'm not going to put Hall on blast. I'm not going to say on here what he was saying late in that fourth quarter. What he was saying to me. He had a couple drinks, but he said some stuff. But
I don't even remember what I was saying.
Well, you can't say that and not say it now.
He was like, we're going to lose. We're going to lose.
Oh, yeah,
I was there with him,
yeah.
though. I was singing that first, like, in the middle of that game. I was like, God damn it, here we go again.
I looked at it,
Only
I
because-
said, no, we're not. No, we're not.
I know, but only because after that second interception, I was like, oh, I've seen this play. I've seen this script
Seen this movie
many
before.
times. Like,
Yeah.
we had the game in the palm of our hands, and we just let it slip right through again. Look, going back to week 1 last year, we were there. We were like, yes, we got this locked up, and then Gibson fumbles. We're like, well, damn. That was the only reason, but hey.
I think the biggest reason for that is because you, in particular, always say this team plays one good half and one bad half. You weren't expecting that they were playing one good quarter in the first quarter and a good in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So essentially, you were correct, and it was just kind of misaligned. But have some faith, baby. Don't worry, we're gonna win that. But let's go to our next fan question. This is from Scott Hartley in the UK in our Discord chat server. Oi! Glad to see you questioning here, Scott. Glad you made it back home safe. What a crazy weekend that was. But his question is, as we prepare for week 2, what are the keys to victory and what do you want to see improve from week 1? I'm going to start this with you, Doug.
I think penalties and turnovers. I think were the big things. There were a couple of, you think of those back-to-back sweat rushes that got called off because of the penalties. Those things turn games around. And, it's not often that you can win a game and lose the turnover battle. That's not going to happen very often.
Especially here.
Well, and anywhere. But yes, right. no doubt here. And then the other thing, Kyle, and you brought it up just a minute ago, is the one problem I had with Turner is I thought they did come out complacent in the third quarter. And that it was frustrating. I'm with you. Let's,
One thing I'll say about that third quarter is at one point I looked at Hall and I was like, dude, they're bleeding this clock. Their offense drove down the field in that third quarter and they chewed up a lot of clock. So it wasn't like they had a lot of time. And that's why it almost felt like Carson was forcing the issue when he got the ball back at the end of the third quarter. And that's where the turnover started happening and generating. What do you think, Hall? What are the? Oh, sorry, you didn't finish. Your keys to victory, and then what do you want to see improved? Or you did name them? I'm tripping.
They kind of go hand in hand. The penalties, right?
Yeah, the turnovers. All right, Hall.
Key to the victory is I think the defensive line is going to have to do what they did against Jacksonville this past Sunday. Get a lot of pressure. Get Jared Goff in this instance, really uncomfortable in the pocket, but they're going to have to finish. Like, obviously, they had a couple sacks in the game, but Montez Sweat was always like a half a step behind. Jonathan Allen was maybe like a half a step behind here and there. Yeah. So I just want them to get to the quarterback and finish on those sacks. And what I want to see them improve on is just the self-inflicted wounds, like the turnovers, the penalties. So, yeah, just like I said, just clean both sides of the football up pretty much.
For me, the keys to the victory, I'll say, is cleaning up the tackling. Tackling was an issue last week with this team. They are run heavy, so the tackling is going to have to be sure-handed. There's going to be a lot of one-on-one tackling here. Like Reed had talked about earlier, rubbing my face in. Penei Sewell obviously is a ferocious run blocker. This really is a run-heavy front. You got to be able to handle that. And then also, what do they need to improve on? Hold them to 0 points. 0. Everyone is picking them. People are in the experts are picking them to win. You want to make a statement, hold them to 0.
Yeah.
Reed?
I mean, you guys have hit on most of them, but I mean, Detroit's offensive line is very young and very physical and very good, like you said, Kyle. So I think getting to them up front, they're very good in the run game, very tenacious. If you can make Jared Goff throw, I think like Anthony Armstrong said, you'll have a better chance. At the same token, though, I mean, last week we let Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Zay Jones was running open all the time. He didn't have the numbers necessarily, but if we can stop Amon-Ra St. Brown and TJ Hawkinson, because we've historically had problems with tight ends, and TJ Hawkinson's a very good tight end. He looks a lot like Logan Paulson used to look with that hair. But I think that as long as you can stop those guys from getting open and kind of control the run game, you'll be good. So basically stop the pass and the run. Don't let them score. You'll be good,
And this is score lots of points.
Yeah.
The most vague description ever.
Right. And this is a piggyback question from Scott. I want to go to you first, Big Doug. Real quick, what impressed you the most about week 1?
That defensive line, I think. Yeah. I mean, they got after it the way we were hoping they would. Right?
Montez had 8 pressures?
And Deron Payne looked really good.
Yep.
Yeah. Really good. Yep. Can I ask you guys a question? This came up on Twitter today. They're not going to be able to pay both. Who are we paying here, Sweat or Payne? If Payne has a huge year, it's going to be hard not to want to pay him, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot has to go into Fedarian Mathis ACL as well. Obviously, if his recovery is not on par, I think that would obviously have a lot to do with Deron Payne's possible extension. But that injury was big for many reasons, and it's gonna make them second guess walking away from Deron Payne without a doubt.
Yeah. Usually I would say edge rusher. I mean, like Montez. Yeah. I mean, having him and Chase for years, I think that's very important. At the same time, though, interior pressure and the way that Deron Payne played, if he keeps that up, and him and John Allen, it's going to be very hard. I mean, I would imagine Montez Sweat, but
why don't we keep them all? Why don't we just get John to restructure his deal and just get both? All right.
I mean, technically, you can fifth-year option Montez or franchise him.
Oh, that's true.
Keep him around for a little bit more if you can get a deal worked out. But me personally, it's crazy because the league is kind of shifting to that interior pressure, getting up in the quarterback space and whatnot. But me personally, I would keep Montez Sweat, pay him. That way, if Chase comes back and we think Chase is who we think he is, you got your two bookends on defense. And at that point, you're just kind of rebuilding the middle of your defense with the linebackers and an
Still
interior.
having John Allen too will help.
Exactly. You still got John Allen. You still got your vet. You still got your team captain. But you just rebuild the interior line. Hopefully Mathis comes back and he's ready to go by the beginning of next year. And you just rebuild that interior, which is crazy to say that after all these draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. We take 1 year of a draft pick and a new quarterback, and all of a sudden it's like, we're good on offense. We got to rebuild that defense now.
Yeah.
So I just think that, you got to rebuild the middle of the defense and keep Montez and Chase on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, Scott, to answer your question, what impressed the most about Week 1? I haven't really said this, but like the fact that it ended like a typical like a professional football game is supposed to, where you're fighting back and forth, you're able to get them at the end of the game, and then you force the turnover to end the game by getting to Trevor Lawrence, hitting him in the chin strap. He's forced to throw that ball, and it ends in a pick. Like, that's what a typical game that you would see from like the Cardinals or like the Rams or the Vikings or something like that. Usually in Washington, we have to like hang on by a thread to win some of these games. That wasn't the case.
Goal at the end.
Yeah, that wasn't the case here. It was like it ended the way that we've always wanted these games to end. Yeah. So that was impressed me the most about this game, that it was like an actual football team is here, and they picked a good time to show up. But the next question we have is from Andy Lockhart. Reed, I'm going to go to you first. Week 2 is upon us. Who are the danger men from Detroit that we have to watch out for?
I mean, I mentioned earlier, obviously, DeAndre Swift's an easy one, but I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just think that he's a very good receiver. He's very physical. And he's just, he's really their only wide receiver at the moment that you could say would go out there and really, really scare you. And after seeing what Christian Kirk did, it's going to be tough not to. 2A, because I'll stick with the passing game, 1A is going to be TJ Hawkinson, though. I'm still a believer in TJ Hawkinson. He's a very, very good guy moving the chains.
What about you, Big Doug? Who's somebody that Washington needs to look out for in Lions?
Well, I think they got I was with you there, Reed. I think the tight end, when is the last time they have ever covered a tight end?
Right.
And now that the video's out, if they plan on leaving Jamin Davis in the same spot he was last week against Christian Kirk if they did the same thing with Amon St. You can see where that leads to.
Right.
And then the other thing is Aiden Hutchinson. He didn't have a huge game in week 1, but that doesn't mean he's not capable. He is. So it'd be another good test for those guards, where they're still trying to figure out really who's going to play guard for Washington over there on the right side. You saw they kind of mixed them a little bit even before West got hurt. So I think that'll be interesting too, is to figure out how they slow down the slot.
Yeah,
plus, one more thing with Hutchinson, we saw Trayvon Walker completely blow Sam Cosmi off the line for that one sack where he just got there. See, his first step was so quick. Those are the first and second draft picks. They're both fantastic pass rushers. So
yeah, I watched the game against Philly from Detroit, and TJ Hawkinson is a very capable run blocker as well. So he is an all-around guy.
Super good
all around. Really good pick by you.
George Kittle light.
Well, for me, it's Jeff Okudah, the press corner. He did a very good job last week, and this is going to be big for Washington. The one Carson Wentz interception was when somebody was in man. He threw it late, and somebody like Jeff Okudah is going to be sitting in your back pocket, is going to be looking for a pass like that. So if he's targeted a lot, that's somebody that Washington has to watch out for, and making sure that they just take him out of the play. I think Jeff Okudah is a very capable corner. I'm not saying that he's Strap City. I'm not saying he's Darrell Revis. I'm just saying that just be cautious.
For a reason, though.
Right. Just be cautious about him.
And Kyle, real quick, I talked to Dave Burkett from the Detroit Free Press, and he said he's finally healthy, and he looks healthy, and he looks like the guy that they invested in. So I'm with you. I think it'll be interesting to see what happened there.
What about you, Hall?
I'm going to say, and this is the easy one, but he's the basis of their offense. I'm going to say DeAndre Swift. If you look at that game against Philly last week, he was breaking off like 5-6 yard runs. Like it was like literally like he just woke up and said 5 or 6 yards. Woke up 5 or 6 yards.
They have such a good offensive line.
Yes, offensive line is crazy. He's good in the passing game as well. He can catch the ball at the backfield. So it's going to be a huge test for the linebackers and the safeties because he's definitely a fast guy as well, shifty guy. And, Jared Goff, even going back to, like, the Rams days, people think Sean McVay's offense is just throw it all around the field, but it's really based off that run and the play action. And you saw Jared Goff, what he did with Sean McVay, got to a Super Bowl based off the run and the play action. And he really just thrives off of play action fakes and throwing the ball down the field. And look out for a guy like DJ Chark, who coming off the injury from last year, I think he's trying to prove himself again and show everybody that he's still a viable receiver in this league. So definitely DeAndre Swift and DJ Chark are the guys I'd be watching out for.
Yeah, I figured that you'd
Goff,
be
Jared
taking.
Goff was at his best when he had Todd Gurley.
Yeah, yes,
Exactly,
he was.
exactly.
Absolutely. Without it. And Sean McVay, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Next question, Big Doug, is from
Mark
Big Tony.
Brunell's like Sean McVay.
Big Tony Shivers. Do you think the Commanders can apply consistent pressure on Goff like they did to Trevor Lawrence?
I do. The injury report came out for the Lions today. Of course, Swift didn't practice again, although I guess he said he's playing no matter what.
Yeah.
But both guards are banged up, and so is the center, Frank Ragnow. So
That's huge.
while they have two really good tackles, we make our money up the middle. And if both guards and the safeties are going to be not 100% at least, I'll bet on our line all day.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. I was talking in Spaces yesterday on Twitter with the Detroit Lions fan, and my whole thing was he didn't think that we could create all that much pressure. And I was like, look, man, I don't think you're giving enough credit to Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. I know that Frank Ragnow is an all-pro or Pro Bowl kind of center, but so is Brandon Sheriff, and Deron Payne made him look really stupid on a couple plays last week. And so I don't think you can say that with certainty, but I will say going against Jared Goff, you want to make Jared Goff move his feet. It's the complete opposite of Trevor Lawrence from last week. You want him to move. When he's able to sit still, be able to pick apart your defense, keep his feet steady, and then go, he's at his best. Jared Goff, you got to be able to move his feet a little bit, make him confused, get him flustered a little bit, and good things will come from that. So I do think that they'll get pressure. It's just going to be from the interior. I love Montez Sweat. I think he's a really good dude. But I do think that he is going to not have as many pressures this week as he did last week. I think this is a very capable offensive line, but the biggest thing is getting Jared Goff out of that pocket, without a doubt. Reed?
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're good. That the three interior players being banged up is going to be huge. But also on top of that, I mean, putting Montez Sweat over somebody like a Taylor Decker, I'll take Montez for a lot of the day. He'll get his numbers. Taylor Decker's good. He's solid. He's average, but he's not up there. I mean, Cam Robinson's solid. He's average too. And look what Montez did to him. He had 8 pressure. So I still think Montez will do his thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a good offensive line. I guess it depends a lot on the play calling, how well they're running the ball, and if we can kind of pin our ears back, or if we're going to pin our ears back or what. But,
yeah, no, I know Pro Football Computer Cowboy came out with this Pro Football Focus grading chart for pass rush, run defense, and then offensive line for pass blocking and run blocking. And the Lions' offensive line was at the bottom left for each one, which is not good. Top right is where you want to be. They were at the bottom left, but I know that that's a better unit than what they were graded for by Pro Football Focus, so you had to take it with a grain of salt. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I think that they can get pressure. It's going to depend on how healthy Jonathan Allen is going into this game. It's going to depend on Deron Payne, if he's going to be able to dominate like he did last week.
And if they blitz like they did with Benjamin St-Juste getting after Trevor Lawrence, that was a beautifully play called.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to depend on Jack Del Rio being a little bit more aggressive, sending those exotic blitzes from the outside or those stunts. They ran a lot of stunts on the defensive line.
Thank goodness.
So yeah, I definitely want to see them do that again this week as well. But I'm just worried about the rush and the gap integrity of the defensive line, because you got a bunch of new guys that are coming in. Not really new guys, but you got a new guy in Donovan coming in. You got Daniel Wise, who's probably going to step in there as well. So I just want those young guys that don't really get the reps all the time as much as the starters and the rotational guys do, to just keep their integrity, their gap integrity, and not try to just do too much, because they're finally getting their shot to play.
Absolutely. Now, this next one is from Jeff Miles. He wanted to say happy birthday to his mom. So happy birthday, Miss Ellington. You're a superwoman, says Jeff. Happy birthday. And also happy birthday to Terry McLaurin, by the way. My goodness.
Scary turd.
Yeah. Turd. His question is, we win if our defense stops blank. This should be easy, rapid fire. For me, it's DeAndre Swift. Big Doug.
I'll piggyback yours.
Yeah, I'm going to hop on that and dog pile on it, if you will.
And I might as well just jump on the cherry on top, DeAndre Swift.
Just like Kyle likes in the showers, just 3 men on top of him, and we're all taking.
Why do you have to do that? Why?
Because you do. I'm not.
But honestly, the reason that we all said DeAndre Swift, I think it's a big reason why DeAndre Swift isn't practicing. Basically, they know that this is their offense, and they're telling the Commanders, you're going to have to game plan for Jamal Williams and others, so to keep them guessing a little bit. I do think DeAndre Swift is going to play. I don't think this is a legitimate.
I just think they're trying to keep him fresh, because they know he's going to get a lot of touches, so they just want him to practice, get banged up during the week.
It's true. He had 150 yards on the ground.
Also, tightest
Right.
name ever for a running back. I will.
Yes,
Just
it
say
is.
DeAndre
Former
Swift.
Georgia Bulldog. But don't forget, like half those yards came on 5 runs too. Don't forget.
Yeah,
That's true.
He
Oh,
was
he's
terrible.
definitely
He
a
had
home run
8
hitter.
runs in that game. Yeah.
Yeah,
One
he's
of
a home run guy.
our good friends, I played flag football with him. His name is Dennis. He's cousins with DeAndre Swift. He was up in
He's from
Detroit for
around
that
here.
game last
Yeah.
week. Yeah. So he's a Bulldog as well. But let's get to our next question from the Sports Drunk. He's from Kevin Walsh. So just get ready. Just get ready for this, okay,
It's gonna
guys?
be so ridiculous.
I know,
All
it's
right,
gonna be
I'm gonna
stupid.
clock out. At
Yeah,
this
so
point.
Big Doug, I'm going to go to you with this. After watching the tape, did the Jaguars adjust to Curtis Samuel, or did the game plan go away from highlighting him? He looked like he could be this year's Debo or Cordero Patterson.
That's
That was
actually a
actually a good
lot better
question.
question than I
Well,
thought.
there's the
Cracky.
second. There's the second question.
Okay, I knew it was coming.
Is Snyder buying black Air Force Ones for everyone who had to walk through the bathroom water again on Sunday?
That's actually a good question.
That might be in the deposition. I'm not sure about that. We'll have to check that out. No, I think it's kind of like the question was floating around, like, was Terry getting enough usage, right? Like, when you have that many weapons, I mean, how many targets did Logan Thomas get? So, I mean,
Right.
I don't think it was about moving away from him. I just think that once Curtis did his job and got the defense to really, and the defensive coordinator to just be staring at him, getting busy all over the field, they worked to shut it down. And then I think the natural progression is the offensive coordinator says, sweet, that's what we were hoping for, and then moves on to, the backup plan. I think that's what it was, not that they just forgot about him.
Right.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. Kevin, come here. Come sit next to Dad. I got a life lesson for you, buddy. We have a thing that we say around here, and that is quality over quantity. You just don't want to force feed Curtis Samuel just to do it when you're not going to generate points. Like you said, Logan Thomas wasn't used that much, but when he was used, it was used in important downs, and he was able to execute it. So quality over quantity. And then the Air Force One thing, that's not sewage. For the last time, it's not sewage. Can we please stop with this?
No, he's talking about there was like one of the urinals or a couple of the urinals in one of the bathrooms in the stadium was just like super overflowing, and there was like pretty much piss water like all over the floor.
That's what happens when you
Sick.
wipe after you.
That happens at every
urinal,
stadium though. Like,
Yeah, I know.
mean,
It's just easy to do it for Washington.
I will also say with Curtis Samuel, I mean, he was definitely schemed up early. I mean, they definitely made it a point to get the ball in his hands, and that's because he had such an exotic skill set. Scott Turner was looking at his chops, looking at him to use him because he didn't get to use him last year, and he knows what a rare skill set that he has. So he's like, we're going to get him the ball in multiple ways, and he did, and he made it a point. And then, like you said, Kyle, that just completely opened up Terry and Jahan.
And it must have felt great for Curtis, right? Because last year was brutal. I mean, it was brutal as us for fans not having him. It had to have been brutal for him to see everybody saying, bust this. And
right.
Why did we
even sign him? Yeah.
This is why they got him last year. This is why they made him priority number 2.
Yep. And then he was crucial in that last drive as well, getting the grab out of the backfield and being able to get the first down. After the Logan Thomas third down reception, Curtis Samuel was a huge part of this offense. Everybody was. Honestly, it was a total team win. But, Doug, I'm going to go to this next question from Commander OC. This is a great one. Totally random for this time of year. But why do former quarterbacks make such good tight ends? Armani Rogers, Logan Thomas, Hines Ward, etc. He said, well, tight end and wide receiver.
I saw this earlier, and I thought it was interesting. I think it just feels that way. I mean, literally, I think he just named like the 4 that have actually done it.
Mm-hmm. Did it. Yeah.
But I mean, these guys are also, I think part of it's the body shape. I mean, all these guys you're talking about are roughly 6'4", 220, 225, 230, drop a little weight off. They both have to see the game similarly. I mean, tight ends are not only have to know all the receiving patterns, but they also have to know the blocking stuff. So I think it lends itself kind of that way, but to say that it happens all the time is generous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's kind of like, all right, so like somebody like me, right, OC, I look at the government, right, and I'll make a bunch of assumptions about the government, but I don't work in there, so I don't know what actually goes on, and maybe what I'm saying is incorrect, essentially. that's essentially what's happening with these tight ends is they've been quarterbacks. They know what goes into it. They know what a quarterback wants, what makes a good target for a tight end. And that's why they put themselves in these positions. When you see Logan Thomas run that route on third down, he doesn't run it below the sticks. He runs it above it, and he makes sure he's in a good position. So it's a lot of these guys knowing what a quarterback wants, but also being able to have the size, like you said, Big Doug, and being able to help in the run game, because that is obviously monumental. And with a quarterback, the quarterback's like footwork, their mechanics, it's very robotic. If you look at like college guys trying to coach up quarterbacks, they have to do everything is in detail. You have to do everything specifically in order. And so that's why I feel like it also transitions easier to tight end, because that's the same type of thing. That's what the offensive line has to do in these run blocks. They're very detail oriented. And so that's why I think the transition is easier for those guys than others, because they know the attention to detail has to be there.
And those are all 4 or 5 guys too, right?
I was about to say, on top of that, like Logan Thomas, Armani Rogers, those guys are all super athletic. I mean,
Yeah.
Antoine Randall, when he converted to wide receiver, super athletic. So that's a lot of it. And like you said, just knowing the nuances of the position, what quarterbacks kind of look for. They kind of, don't say that they know it every time. Otherwise, they would probably still be a quarterback, But they have an idea of what quarterbacks like to do, certain tendencies, where they should run their routes, where they should stop, where they should, so where they should find the soft spot in the zone. So I think that definitely helps. But yeah, like you said, a lot of these quarterbacks, man, are big. Logan Thomas is a big dude, so that definitely helps.
It does help. Hall, anything else?
Yeah, I just think you guys pretty much hit all the points. That's the way the league is trending as far as like those big, tall, kind of athletic tight ends. So if you're an athletic quarterback, you know how to break down film as a quarterback. You're looking for like those soft spots in the zones. You know all the coverages, the different types of the way the cornerback or the linebacker wants to open his hips up or whatnot. So
Right.
you just know the little nuances of the
The
position.
Look at
So
you.
you just convert it to his tight end's mind, and you get a little bit of blocking under your belt, and then you got Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
My man
Hey, if he
Hall
doesn't
coming
pan
through.
out as a quarterback, if he sucks, imagine somebody like Anthony Richardson converting to tight end with that speed, that big old body.
Right.
Woo.
Now, this next question is from our guy, T-Mac on Twitter. Hall, I want to get your opinion on this. The middle of our O-line looks banged up. What's our game plan?
The game plan is believe in Coach Matsko. That's been the game plan that he's got here, and just got to keep following the game plan, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's all I got to say about that.
Detroit has a young linebacking core, and I know that we have some issues at guard in the interior right now with injuries with Wes Schweitzer and everything. But Trey Turner came in, Sadiq Charles came in and was able to do well at times. And then obviously Andrew Norwell being there as well. We have very capable guys to be able to come in and help in the run game specifically. But the game plan for me, honestly, I think this is going to be a field day for the running backs in the passing game. The linebackers are fast, but they are young, so you can kind of use like J.D. McKissick did to Devin Lloyd last week. Get him in open space in front of him, make him look stupid. And that's kind of what's going to happen with these guys. So I think they're going to be heavily focused with these running backs being in the passing game because of Jeff Okudah in that corner, want to be press man, and then say have our front four get after Carson and say we're going to stifle you guys so you can't get the playoff in time. I think the running backs are going to be huge in that regard. So without a doubt, it's going to be getting the running backs out in space and utilizing them against those linebackers and safeties. Reed?
I don't remember the question.
Big Doug, what is O-line's banged up? What's our game plan?
This is interesting. I had not caught this, but Al Galdi said that in the Ron Rivera presser after the game, they had actually started rotating the guards before they got hurt just to see how they matched up. And I don't know that I have ever heard that in my life, to be trying some stuff out on the offensive line in game.
What that tells me is that something was lingering with Norwell or Schweitzer, and they were like, okay, we don't know if we want to pull you yet, so we're going to start rotating, and it ended up getting worse somehow in the game. That's what it tells me. And the reason why he can't say that is because he'd get in trouble for sending an injured guy back out there.
I think they just weren't confident yet. They didn't know what to expect. Or they didn't know what they had because they didn't play together.
Maybe they're still trying to work different
teams
line
do not
combinations,
rotate
honestly.
guards mid-game like that. That
They
never
know,
happens.
I know they don't. But I'm saying, like they
Never
didn't
happens.
play. They don't have no idea what they have with Trey Turner. And I mean, so who knows?
I don't know about that. But now let's
Yeah, well,
go to our
Kyle,
next,
you're also a
let's go to our
conspiracy
next
theorist,
question.
and you also think you know what happened to Tower 7. So
I do. I was there. All right, let's go to our next question from Mike Puckett. Doug, I want to go to you first. His question is, Curtis Samuel was the MVP of the game last week for me. So many questions got answered. What player needs to be the MVP this week for the win?
Oh, needs to be. Well, it's easy to say Carson, right? I mean, if you just get the same Carson you got last week, I hear all these people talking about the interceptions. I will take 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions every Sunday for the rest of the year. Please sign me up for that. I also think, good on Antonio Gibson, right? I mean, he needed that game. They had already buried him and moved on, and it had to felt great for him. So the easy one is Carson. Obviously, if he has a big game, so goes the team. But it was really nice to see Gibson. And to your point earlier, Reed, the linebackers are not great. So there's a chance for Gibby to get out and get busy again this week for sure.
Yeah, for me, it's going to have to be Cameron Curl. I think he has to be the MVP of this week. Without him being in there in the run fit, kind of the tackler that he is in the running game, you saw what that did to linebackers. They were missing tackles, didn't look that great in the running game. Cam Curl is pivotal in that aspect. And so if Cam Curl going against DeAndre Swift this running game, Cam Curl's going to have an MVP-type game to stifle that ground game and force Jared Goff to be able to throw over top if they want to win. And if that is the case, I think Washington wins the football game inevitably, and Cameron Curl ends up being the MVP. So without a doubt for me, it's Cam Curl.
So I don't necessarily know if this guy needs to be the MVP to win, but somebody who I'm interested to see is going to be Jamin Davis after a tough game last week. Being able to match up, if he can help stop DeAndre Swift in all aspects of the game with his big plays and kind of help slow down TJ Hawkinson. And hey, we saw him last week on a wide receiver. So if he can step up a little bit, I think that'll really bode well, because the positions that he's going to be mainly going up against are their positions, their strengths. So.
Who's yours, Hall? Rapid fire.
It's got to be Daron Payne for me. I think we got to get after Jared Goff often and early, get in his face, get him uncomfortable early in the game, and like I said, just get in his face, swat some balls down, get him rattled, get his confidence shaken. Yeah,
never swat.
Yeah, exactly. Get his confidence shaken up, and just get in his face and create that pressure up the middle.
Like Along Came Polly when he was playing basketball.
I was thinking of that too. That's so funny. Oh my God, I was just about to say that.
That's so funny. And
I have this body too, the one that gets in Ben Stiller's face. When he's
That's not cool. This next question is from Ken Johansson. The punish jumpers block that Trey Turner used in the game against the 6'4", 320-pound Devon Hamilton was punishing indeed. Could we see that tactic used by this offensive line in the future? It would certainly make defensive linemen think twice about jumping the block passes. This isn't something new that's to Washington, Ken. This is what's taught to offensive linemen whenever you see somebody jumping in front of you. Honestly, when I was playing, what I was taught is to punch them in the nuts when they jump up, to be perfectly honest with you. But
play dirty in these parts.
Right. And so the fact is, that's always going to happen. That's why they always say get your hands up, but don't jump, because you don't want to get pushed onto your back. But I hope it does continue to happen, because we love to see offensive linemen get pancakes. It's crazy to see a 330-pound dude just go completely parallel to the earth and drop a couple feet. It's crazy to watch that happen. But that is something that every offensive lineman should be doing when a defender's jumping. Just hopefully it doesn't happen to our guys. Yeah. Doug?
Again, you mentioned him earlier. It can't be overstated how good Masco is an offensive line coach. Not that all the rest of them aren't teaching that, but just the group as a whole. Again, we talked about guards coming in and out, and you would never know.
Yeah.
Never miss a beat. And real quick, while we're talking about offensive line, can you believe that the Bears just told Charles Leno no thank you anymore? Like, they didn't get any
How crazy is that?
for him. They just let him go and said no thanks.
And they are struggling right now up front.
Imagine. So
shout out to their
thank
family.
you. Shout out to the Bears for Charles Leno.
That's Ryan Pace, ain't it? That's his doing.
Yeah, shout out to their families, like Hall said.
This last question to wrap up this show, guys, before we get into our score predictions and MVP prediction. This is from Tim Towner. He DM'd me on Twitter. After week 1, who are we as a team, and who did we beat? We left points on the field, but so did Jacksonville, a lot, and we turned over a lead, but we also came back, and so far from perfect, after beating Jacksonville, are we a good team? So started off first, who are we as a team, the identity? I feel like that might be too early to say at this point. What do you think, Doug?
It looked to me like they wanted to be explosive on offense. And I love that because I really think a lot of people thought that they were going to try to be ground and pound this year. And I hated the idea of that. Like just start over and rebuild if we're going to ground and pound. I hate that. So the idea that they came out looking to put points up on the board, I loved it. And I think that's what we're going to try to be this year with the weapons.
Yeah, to be honest, well, who are we? I think we're the bad boys of the NFL. We're ranked at bottom of every list. Nobody gives us any respect, and we don't need any. So that's who we are as a team. We're grinded out, and we're going to play 4 quarters, and we're going to force you to beat us and hopefully inflict our will on you. And honestly, after week 1, that's what I saw. I saw an offensive line and defensive line that really pushed and inflicted their will upon the Jacksonville Jaguars, and honestly, it bled them dry at the end of the game. Reed?
Yeah, like Doug said, man, I think that we're a team that really takes a lot of pride in our weapons, and I think we want to try to put up as many points as possible. I think that they want to show Carson Wentz that they have a lot of faith in him, and they just want to let him be free, baby. Unload it downfield, let the natural ability of these pass catchers all show. And I think that it's just the beginning of this offense.
And now, so after beating Jacksonville Hall, are we a good team?
Well, I wouldn't say after beating Jacksonville we're a good team. I thought they were a good team before they even played Jacksonville. But, I mean, just like you said, no one gives us any respect. No one really thinks much of Washington, even after Carson Wentz coming out, digging himself a hole, digging himself out the hole, throwing the game-winning touchdown. The defense stepping up, getting closing out the win for us.
They opened the game with a touchdown.
Exactly. So
how often does that happen?
At this point, I'm pretty sure we all think they're a good team. So now they just got to show the rest of the world that they're a good team. And it started last week, and it starts again this week up in Detroit.
What was it I saw on Twitter that was like Carson Wentz misses 3 games since 2018? Everybody just says that he's some injury prone.
I said coming into the
20
season,
games since 2018. Everybody's like, it's just a coincidence.
Even when we signed him, the whole notion was, oh, he's injured. He's always injured. Yeah. I'm like, if you look back, he started 44 of his last 46 games.
He plays through
Doesn't
injuries.
sound like a guy that's always injured to me.
Right.
He might be always injured, but he plays injured. He's a tough guy.
Exactly.
He's a tough guy. So.
And also real quick, I think last year with the Chargers game when we opened, remember, I think people didn't realize when we lost that game and they ended up being really good. I think there's a chance Jacksonville ends up being a pretty good team this year.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I will look back and think this was a pretty good win. I really do.
No, we all agree there without a doubt. But I will say,
I think Detroit will be too.
Tim, you said, are we a good team? I'm not going to say I think we're a good team. I'm going to say I know we are a good team. What I watched last Sunday, that's not a team that's fluky like a lot of the talking heads out there had said. That was earned. Without a doubt, that was earned. That was not done on 1 or 2 plays. That was done on multiple, and they had to pull that out, and they did a very good job with it.
The saying always goes, good teams find a way to win, and
Absolutely.
They found a way to win. So I guess you got to label them a good team.
Yeah.
And also, every team leaves points on the board. I'm sure if you talk to every offensive coordinator, they would say we should have scored every time we had the ball.
Right.
So it happens every week, and I was still finding a way, like Hall said, it's huge.
Yep. Now let's get into our predictions, baby. This is where the nuts are on the table. Hall, start us off first.
Sick. What do you do with your friends?
Good thing I brought my
We talk about the Commanders.
Nuts out on the table.
While your nuts are on the table.
Is it like a?
No, so Kevin 2
nice
years
things?
ago at our draft, or 3 years ago at our draft party, had walked up to the draft party. We were already inside. He was last one in, and when he came in, he said, "Hey, everybody, I just want to let you know I put my balls on all of your door handles for your cars." And he was like, "Of course, Kyle has a truck, and his door handle was too high for me." So yeah, those are my friends.
That's where it's a good thing that scrotums are like elastic, pretty much. They're like gum.
All right, now with all the scrotum talk, it's a perfect time to break
Your
down
skin.
and predict
Why
this
do we
game.
have
This
that
game
skin?
this Sunday. Hall, start us off.
So, I've been going back and forth with this one, and if you would have asked me yesterday, I would have said we lose a close one. But I've flip-flopped, and I think that we win a close one. I think it's going to come down to kind of like this past Sunday, last possession. I think that we close it out in the fourth quarter. I'll go Detroit 27, Washington 30.
All right, I like it. A little high scoring for me, but I like it. What do you think, Doug?
Oh, if you thought that was high scoring, wait till I throw my nuts on the table and tell you,
Big old things.
yeah, big
Bravo, sir.
31-24. I think it will be exciting to see this offense on that turf inside the dome. And I think it's a track meet, and I don't think their defense can come close to stopping what we have on. It is so amazing that that's the conversation we're having right now. Is like, I want to see their defense be able to keep up with our offense, because I don't think they can. I don't know when the last time we did that was, but it feels nice. So I'll take 31-24 Washington.
Yes, look, I would love that first two drives to be able to be replicated against the Detroit Lions. I just have a hard time expecting it or thinking it. Yes, we boomed in week 1, but I expect this to be a low-scoring affair. I think Washington is going to win 23-16. Historically, they do not play well in Detroit. They haven't won in Detroit since 2008. And so I feel like it's going to be low scoring. Sometimes we play down to our opponent. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they just come out and blow their doors off and don't allow them to score a single point. But I think it's going to be 23-16, low scoring. But Washington just has too many offensive weapons like we saw last week. They just find a way to edge it out and win this football game with a late touchdown. What do you think, Reed?
I think it'll be a good game. I'm going to go 27-21 Washington, and this 2 field goals that old Sly guy makes is going to end up being the difference.
Absolutely. Love to hear that. Well, Big Doug, can't thank you enough for joining us, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. This is great.
Big old nuts. I'm surprised you could even be seen on the camera with those things.
We saved all the nuts talk
brought
for
them
you.
along in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, just like Randy Marsh, baby. Buffalo Soldier.
But before we get out of here, Doug, if you'd just like to plug your social media handles and your podcast show, just in case anybody watching doesn't follow you already would like to.
Sure. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do a show. It's generally live streams around 2 p.m. It's the Big Douglas Show, wherever you get your podcast at. So appreciate you guys.
Of course, brother. All right, everybody. We will be back on Monday. So we want to hear from you guys, though. Comment on here. Let us know what your score predictions are. Who's going to be the MVP of this game against Detroit? Are you feeling confident? Do you think that Washington can pull it off for the first time since 2008? We want to hear from you. Happy birthday, Terry McLaurin. I know he celebrated by hanging out with a bunch of kids from the city, giving like a fundraiser type of thing, which is absolutely awesome. Terry McLaurin, he's an angel.
Not weird at all.
He's an angel. He's a prophet. I don't know what he is, but he's something, and he's ours. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Good luck to the Commanders. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good weekend. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!